Greetings, my fellow Nephilim. Today is April 29th, 2021. My name is Horadric, and I would like to talk to you about Diablo 3 and how to play it. One might ask, why would I spend my time and effort recording a video about how to play an RPG that is almost a decade old? And the answer to that question is this. To this day, I get questions during my stream, which is on twitch.tv/Horadric, about the fundamentals of the game. Because to this day, people are struggling with building a character. Dramatic music, indeed. For those of you who do not know, this is Diablo 1 soundtrack. And I love it, very much so. But I digress. So, Diablo 3. How does one build Diablo 3 character? The character in Diablo 3 has primary attribute, and it has many detailed attributes that are in the details tab inside of the inventory. I will try to keep it simple. Not because I think that you can't figure out the intricacies, but because the simple tips that I give you now will help you have better decision making in the future. So, step 1. When you launch Diablo 3, you go to your options and you make sure that you have elective mode selected and show advanced tooltips selected. Why is that? Because when you have elective mode selected and you go to your skills menu, you have the option to move your skill around. You can move your skill between your keyboard buttons and your mouse buttons. If the elective mode is not selected, you cannot do that. So please use elective mode. Show advanced tooltips should be enabled for the following reason. If it is not selected, the skills are going to have reduced description, and that is going to harm your ability to create functional builds without guidance. For example, this is the description of the Rend skill and the Whirlwind skill without the advanced tooltips. If I enable show advanced tooltips, it clearly states here, display additional information on skills, information on skill tooltips. And elective mode says enable full customization of skill selection and placement on the action bar. So we make sure that this is enabled, and now we actually see that there are more numbers. More numbers, more data, more descriptive data about the skill. For example, right now, the Lacerate rune for the Rend would deal more damage. We can tell by how much damage it is more functional. So, if I build a character and I know nothing about Diablo 3, the first thing I should do is to hover over strength, dexterity, intelligence, and vitality. The description for what those attributes do is right there. I am a barbarian. And for my barbarian, it states, primary attribute of barbarians and crusaders. This is strength. Increases all damage for barbarians and crusaders by the same number as the strength that I have. Increases armor by the same amount as the strength. And the second attribute that is important is vitality. At level 70, each point of vitality increases life by 100%. If you are, let's say, a wizard, a witch doctor, or a necromancer, intelligence will be your primary attribute. Intelligence increases all resistance. When I go to the details tab and I hover over any of the resistance for any element, whether it's physical damage, cold damage, fire damage, it says reduces fire damage from level 70 enemies by some amount. I have additional elemental reduction due to certain passives that my character has, but that's that's a little bit more advanced. However, more damage reduction is better. That's the important piece. So now that you've looked at the primary attributes, what is the next step? The next step is improving your damage and making sure that you have the required survivability and not more than that. And the rest you invest in your damage. The rest you invest in your damage. Let me refer to my yes. Let me refer to my sheet that I wrote with the topics that I wanted to discuss. So in Diablo 3, the way that the characters and the character progression is structured, you are going to find items that boost the damage of your skills. For example, there is an item called Mortix Brace. If you find it, it says Wrath of the Berserker gains the effect of every rune. Wrath of the Berserker is this skill, and when you pick a skill, normally you can only have one rune equipped. When the advanced tooltips are enabled, it says that while active, you gain 50% more damage. And this is the only benefit you get. But when you equip Mortix Bracers, and you have the Wrath of the Berserker skill active, this rune is also applied, this rune is applied, this rune is applied, and this rune is applied. The next most impactful rune to Insanity. Insanity is the rune that says you gain 50% more damage. In other words, you can kill the monsters quicker. Striding Giant is the next more impactful rune, which states all the damage that you take is reduced by 50%. This means that you become a lot tougher when that skill is up and running. When you find an item that enhances your skill that you are utilizing, that is referred to as synergy. Synergy means cooperation. When an item cooperates with the skill, or another skill is also cooperating with a skill. For example, in Diablo 3, there is such a thing as sets, and a set is a collection of items that, when put together, provides a benefit for a particular skill. In this case, I am using Wraths of the Waste set, and that set is built to synergize with Whirlwind and Rend skill. When you collect the set items, it improves the style of play that you elect to enjoy inside of Diablo 3. So when you get the full set, your Whirlwind and your Rend get a large boost in damage. So that's why I'm using Rend and I'm using the Whirlwind, because I want to play that kind of a barbarian, because I want to do this. Oh, actually, I cannot attack inside of town, but I will demonstrate the barbarian prowess shortly, after I speak about the details of how one should play the game a little bit more. So, when you've selected your play style, what is the next step alongside those that I've already talked about? The next step, when you understand that you need to make sure that you survive and not die, and after that you increase your damage as much as you can. There are two attributes in Diablo 3 that are fundamental to boosting your damage. It is critical hit chance and critical hit damage. So, critical hit chance says that critical hits deal 400, in this case, because I have 485% boost in critical hit damage. When a critical hit is delivered, the damage is multiplied by nearly 500%. This is thanks to the two gems that I have equipped in my one-handers, the Flawless Royal Emerald, and certain benefits that I get from items. For example, this glove has plus 50% critical hit damage. Let's see here. Do I have critical hit damage on this ring? No, I do not. But yeah, this mostly comes from items. Ideally, your ratio of critical hit chance to critical hit damage should be about 1 to 10. This is the community consensus. However, there are certain builds that you can do which make you which make it so that you can reduce the basic amount of critical hit chance, and as a trade-off you boost the critical hit damage, because playing together with a party or having your mercenary have certain items that boost your critical hit chance, or this makes it worthwhile to basically have less critical hit chance and more critical hit damage. I would say that having about 50% critical hit chance is what you want. 45 is acceptable, but it's a little shaky. 40 is low. Keep in mind that when you begin the game, the items you find are not as powerful, and you get the full-blown critical hit chance and critical hit damage boost at level 70. Somewhere around level 70 is when that begins to appear. It is not difficult to get to level 70. It is pretty quick. In fact, if you stop by my channel, twitch.tv/Rarugu, and I'm playing Diablo 3, I will help you get to level 70 fairly quickly. Within about 5 minutes, I can do that for you. In this season, in season 23 at least. So, next step. Once you figured out that you can stack critical hit chance and critical hit damage, the primary source of critical hit chance and critical hit damage are your rings, your bracers, your amulet, and your helmet. Critical hit damage also is greatly boosted by the emerald. The highest tier emerald yields the greatest result, obviously. Before you level about, let's say, 40 to 50, a better gem is a Marquise Ruby, because until you reach level 70, flat damage on the weapon is actually better, because you do not find critical hit chance and critical hit damage that often, nor do you really need it. You start with weapons that have a very low flat damage, so boosting a basic weapon with a ruby is actually better. But we're talking, I'm aiming to talk about late game. So in the late game, you use emerald just about 100% of the time. One more tip about defense. I'm going to talk about armor and resistances. Armor reduces all damage taken from enemies of the same level as you. Now, stacking armor and stacking resistances has diminishing returns. Barbarians and Crusaders, by default, have a lot of strength, so their armor is going to naturally be high. However, intelligence for Barbarians and Crusaders is quite low, so their resistance to elements such as lightning, fire, and poison is going to be low. So on your belts or on any items that you find, if you can get an all resistance stat, you should definitely get it, because for Barbarians and Crusaders you should supplement that which you lack, in this case all resistances. Inversely, for your Witch Doctors, Wizards, and Necromancers, when you build up your character and you are sure that that critical hit chance and critical hit damage are all up to par, you should stack armor on as other stats. Prioritize critical hit chance and critical hit damage, but if you can re-roll an attribute that is not needed or can be re-rolled and you can afford it, choose armor for Witch Doctors, Wizards, and Necromancers. As far as stacking critical hit chance and critical hit damage, the primary items for that, I've already mentioned that rings are very good with, well, let me rephrase that. Critical hit chance and critical hit damage can be found on rings, amulets, and gloves. Critical hit chance additionally can be found on helmets and bracers. When you stack your critical hit chance and critical hit damage, you are going to basically hit a ceiling where you can't get as much of it anymore, otherwise you will have to sacrifice vitality. I would say that if your character is... if you're just starting up, then you should have around 800,000 life on your character. When you hit level 70 and you have your gear on, 7 to 800,000 life is the ballpark which you should aim for until you begin optimizing your build a little more. So once you do that, what is the next step? How can you improve your character and multiply your damage even more? Generally, if you can find a multiplier for your skills, how do you do that? The first and most and the easiest way to multiply the damage of your skills is through items that you find. For example, there is an item called Ambo's Pride that says attacking with Whirlwind applies rend and the total damage of rend is dealt over 1 second. Rend deals 1100% weapon damages physical over 5 seconds. So that damage is dealt within 1 second. Man, my character interrupted my thunder. So instead of dealing 1100 damage in 1 second, or I'm sorry, actually, instead of dealing 1100% over 5 seconds, it's going to deal that damage instantly due to Ambo's Pride. That is a multiplier for a skill that I use, which stacks with Wrath of the Wastes set. There are plenty of items that you can find, and those items should be either put on your character or they should be transmuted inside of a Horadric cube. Horadric cube typically has 3 slots. 1 for the weapon, 1 for the armor, and 1 for the jewelry slot. In my case, I use Lamentation Belt, which says rend can now stack up to 2 times, and the damage of rend is increased by 150%. So what basically happens is, if it says rend can stack up to 2 times, that doubles the damage of rend, and it says that the damage of rend is increased by 150%. That boosts the damage of rend by more than double. I hope you are seeing the trend, because the trend of finding an item that multiplies the damage of your skill is a must for every single class and every single build. For example, I'll give you another one. There is an item for the monk class which is called Caesar's Memento. It says enemies take 659% increased damage from your Tempest Rush. That is a monk skill. And on these specific bracers, that multiplier can go between 600 and 800%. So when you start playing Diablo 3 and you would like to what you want to do, and okay, let me rephrase this. If you want to play efficiently, if you want to destroy the monsters, the demons, what have you, you should focus on a single skill for your damage output. This way you will be the most efficient with that. So if you want to play a leap barb and you find, for example, Blade of Tribes says Warcry and Threatening Shout cause an avalanche and earthquake. Avalanche and earthquake both deal 800% increased damage. So what this means is that this particular two-handed mighty weapon provides an excellent bonus for earthquake and avalanche, which gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to play. It's a different play style, but there are items that can accommodate for that. So, when we stack our critical hit damage, when we stack our critical hit chance, and we stack our items that multiply the damage. And in actually, one more little tidbit about the Horadric cube, you can go into Horadric cube and take a look at the armor and weapon items that multiply your damage, and you can plan the build that you want to play with. You don't necessarily have to play what I'm showing you. I'm just giving you the basic rules that apply to every single class, so that when you use them, you can build your character more effectively. There are other aspects that I would like to mention, and even though it might seem a little daunting, it is really not that complex. Once you play for a little bit, you know, you'll get what I'm saying. And if you want to rewatch this video again later, you can, you know, get the points again and see what you're missing. So, we talked about critical hit chance, we talked about critical hit damage, we talked about the items, or I talked about the items that boost the damage of your skills. We talked about the sets that multiply the damage of the skills that you want to play. As you play the game, you will find other interesting aspects that improve your efficiency. There are other simple, fundamental multipliers for your damage. And what are those? The basic fundamental multiplier is the elemental damage. In case of this barbarian, my main damage element is physical. If you look at my damage sheet, which is accessible through the details button in the inventory, it says that my physical damage increase, fire damage increase, lightning, cold, etc. is by 66%. This comes from items such as Stone of Jordan, the bracers that I wear, and elemental damage can be rolled on any bracers, and also the amulet. Stone of Jordan in particular is a very strong item that multiplies all the elemental damages. It is a very flexible item. It is one of the best items. On top of multiplying your your elemental damage skill universally and making you universally powerful regardless of the element, it also multiplies the damage against elites. If you look at my character sheet, it says that my bonus damage against elites is 78%. This is because I have Stone of Jordan and I have Furnace equipped in my cube. It is a two-handed mace that multiplies the damage against elites by 78%. So I hope you are catching the trend that I am stacking the damage multipliers one on top of another, starting with critical hit chance and critical hit damage, and then supplementing that with elemental damage. Another alternative to Stone of Jordan is Convention of Elements. You gain increased damage to a single element for 4 seconds by a very large amount. It rotates based on the primary elements of your class. There can be 3 to 4 elements per class, depending on which one you like to use. Once we took care of that, there is one more step, and this is going to be the last piece that I show, or the last piece that I mention, because I already talked about sets, and there are sets Irena, stop interrupting. There are sets that multiply your damage besides the main sets that you get. One of the most widely used ones is Captain Crimson's. This set boosts your damage based on the cooldown reduction that you have, and reduces damage taken based on the damage. It reduces your damage based on the percentage of cost reduction. Pardon me. I'm just gonna make the music a little quieter here for a second. So that's why I have the cooldown gem in my helmet. Cooldown gem in my helmet synergizes with Captain Crimson's set because it adds more cooldown. The final step to improving your character is picking the right gems. You should always have a socket in your jewelry after you hit level 70, because you can start collecting gems that boost your character performance significantly. There are offensive and defensive gems. I maybe will make a video about the gems later on. The way you can also boost your character's or your items potency is by using recipes inside of the Horadric cube. I recommend that you find the Horadric cube in the ruins of Sescheron. Zoltan Kuhl, this character right here, is the one that will lead you to the Horadric cube in the adventure mode, and you should take a look at the recipes and figure out how to do it, because that's part of playing the game. That's part of the fun. So, without further ado, I'm going to demonstrate the performance based on what I've told you. If we look at the season journey consists of several chapters. Guardian is the final chapter in the season journey, and let's see here. One of the requirements for the final step in the season journey is to reach Greater Rift level 70 solo. In other words, you have to play it yourself, you have to play it without teammates, and you have to complete it within the allowed period of time, which in case of this game is 15-minute period. Now, instead of doing just level 70, I will do something a little harder. Now, Greater Rifts, they start with level 1, which is the hard difficulty. There is no easy difficulty in Diablo 3. They go up, and every 5 levels, it increases a level. Torment 16 is the final step in the main in the adventure mode, right? In the adventure mode, it can only go up to Torment 16. So for the Guardian achievement, you don't even need to be able to access Torment 16. In fact, let me see here. Season Journey has a particular conquest that is called Divinity, which means you have to reach Greater Rift level 75 solo, and that is you have to be able to play it on Torment 16. That is the Divinity conquest. But why stop there, right? Instead of doing level 75, I'm going to attempt to do level 100. Let's take a look at how well I do. Alright. So we're doing okay. No way, Jose. No chance lands. As you can see, at Greater Rift 100, I am not struggling all this much with toughness. Take a look at my life bar. I'm fighting monsters, and yes, my life bar is moving, but it's not, you know, I'm not dead yet. Oh! That was a little tough. That's okay, let's back up. Let's back up a little bit, pop one of our skills. We're not going to just blindly bum rush. And you can tell that we're dealing damage, right? We're killing monsters. Pretty good. The progress is happening at a reasonable pace. Alright, we just killed 2 elite packs. There's a bunch of mobs. And we're handling them quite well. We are handling them quite well. Here's another elite. Actually, are there 2 elites or just 1? Nah, it looks like just 1. Alright. The progress bar, it is filling up at a nice pace. There's a channeling pylon, which makes our cooldowns much lower. It's good. And there's another pack. Took care of that. Let's move forward. There's another elite pack. And there we go. Look at all that extra time we have. Does it look to you like I'm struggling? The answer is no, it does not. In fact, it looks like I'm crushing. Alrighty. Alrighty then. We're almost to the end. We are about 75% through the Greater Rift. Okie dokie. Let's smash the demons. There we go. We just need one more pack. One more elite pack. And we should be alright. Ah, there it is. And there it is. We completed Greater Rift 100. Well, I completed Greater Rift 100 with 10 minutes and 51 seconds remaining. Look at all that loot. Oh yeah. By the way, the higher the Greater Rift that you do, the more loot you get. So, let's level up some gems. There it is, level 100. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far, if you would like to complete the season journey and crush the later stages of the game, get to the end game content, and enjoy the variety of builds that Diablo 3 has to offer, I hope you will find this video useful. I hope that the tips that I gave you are going to move you forward and you can solve the issues and inconsistencies that you have with your builds. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your time. If you would like to have more tips given to you about Diablo 3, I will link the video about the mercenary setup at the end of this video, so that you can learn more about how to build a mercenary and what it means to build a mercenary. I made that guide quite a bit back, so if you watch it, you know, your gameplay will also improve if you didn't know anything about that. It would really help if you click the follow button if you're on twitch.tv/Rarugu, or if you click the subscribe button when you are watching this video on YouTube, because this will help the YouTube algorithm and it will help Rarugu Comrades community to grow. You can join me on Facebook, on YouTube, on Discord, on Twitter, Vkontakte, etc. The links are below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in Sanctuary. Good luck, have fun, and take care.